Most people only come into contact with flying foxes when the animals are found injured. Sometimes females are carrying their young with them at the time, and if the mother dies, the rescued young is raised by an animal rehabilitator. Raising an orphaned flying fox can be a delightful, although exhausting, experience. They require constant care, physical contact, and attention much like a human baby. Every year, dedicated volunteers give up several months of their time to raise orphans so that they can be released into the wild. Vanessa Barrett shares with us the joys and challenges of being foster mother to orphaned Thomas.
Hello, my name's Vanessa Barrett and I'm a wildlife carer with Sydney Wildlife. This is Thomas and he is a grey-headed flying fox and he is about 6 weeks old. He was a very lucky little bat. His mother was electrocuted on the power lines in the inner west area. A member of the public noticed something moving on the dead mother and called Sydney Wildlife. Energy Australia are really good. They'll help with the cherry picker, bring the dead bat down and rescue the baby. He was about half the size of what he is now and pretty timid and a little bit unsure about being fed by a human and being handled by a human. But as you can see now, he's really relaxed and we've bonded really well. And he's growing well and should be right on target to go back to the wild in around about February. I've raised a lot of different animals over the years and flying foxes are the best because with possums and things you can't play with them. You couldn't take them everywhere with you the way you could with a flying fox because they'll end up getting tame. And as soon as you release them, a cat will just take them. Whereas flying foxes go back into the colony just like all the other flying foxes and want nothing more to do with humans. Thomas is on about 4 feeds a day at the moment. Because they're placental mammals like us, grey-headed flying foxes can be raised on cow's milk. In this case, I'm using a puppy formula. I'll just give him a little bit. This is the greediest, gutsiest flying fox I've ever raised and I have to be really careful with him because he will inhale the milk and drown in it. So I just give him a little bit at a time. Just as of about 3 days ago, he started on little bits of soft fruit. The first time I was laughing so much at the look on his face because he was in heaven and he was screaming and yelling and saying, give me more fruit, because he loved it so much. Flying foxes have got little tiny milk teeth. The baby flying foxes are on their mothers all the time. There's a little nipple just under the wing and the baby's attached to that nipple right under the wing there. So the attachment has to be really good. The other thing we notice when we get little babies in is they've got that fetish for hanging on to something with their mouth. So we usually make them a little dummy out of the teat with the same shape and they'll just hang on to that non-stop. So you can see he's pretty bossy. He always tells me what to do and if I'm late for a feed he'll start squawking at me. Do you want your dummy? You want it? So just like human babies, he loves having his dummy and it's a good little thing to use when he's being naughty or loud, especially when I'm on the train and I don't want people to know what I've got in my basket. But he has started doing that famous trick that human babies do where he'll drop his dummy on the floor and someone will pick it up for him. He'll drop it again, screaming, 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 dropping it just to get attention. It's quite funny. It's exactly the same as what human babies do. One of the things that fascinates the kids, because I go to a lot of schools with him, are his wings, and it's definitely his best feature. They are made of an incredible membrane which is really rich in blood vessels. I don't know if you can see that in the shot, but these wings grow so quickly at this age, which is the other reason why the milk formula has to be nice and rich in calcium. We can actually measure the wings every day and see, we can watch them growing. They grow so fast, those finger bones. And the blood vessels in the wings make sure that if there's any damage, they heal really quickly as well. I've seen flying foxes with gaping holes in their wings and they've healed incredibly fast. So absolutely amazing. If you haven't thought about a flying fox's wing before, there's a distinctive hand in there. He's got his big thumb hook, which he uses to climb when he's climbing around in the trees. And it's also really important for going to the toilet because they hang on with their thumb hooks and tip up the right way. I won't do it too much because he will go to the toilet. They tip up the other way to make sure they don't get any mess on themselves, so they use their thumb hooks for that. So it's really just a hand like ours, which I think is amazing, just a modified hand that they can do so many amazing things with. His muscles and his wings are not ready to fly yet. Every night he's working as hard as he can to exercise and flap and strengthen his wings, with the plan that around about Christmas, every year, every flying fox I've ever had, around about Christmas Day, just when everything's at its most hectic and there's wrapping paper everywhere, the flying fox decides to start flying around the house. And it's always an exciting moment. Although it terrifies them the first time it happens. They scream and cry and poo everywhere because they've scared themselves so much. I don't think they actually realise they can do that. And then after that, they just fly constantly and you can't control them, and that's when you just can't wait to send them off to creche. In the Sydney area, about 20 or 30 babies that go in together. They're all about the same age. All the mothers drop them off at creche and turn around and don't look back. They get a little tag put on their thumb to identify them, and then from then on it's pretty much try and leave them alone as much as possible. Somebody goes in to feed them once a day, and that feeding's all about just getting that body weight up, making sure they're strong and supported and ready for when they go back to the wild, because then they'll have to fend for themselves. It's a really important socialisation time. Flying foxes are notoriously bad-tempered with each other. They're quite, they can be quite mean to each other and quite sort of assertive. And there's a lot of squabbles over food and thumb hooks in the eye and working out who's going to be dominant in the little creche environment. You know, it's only anecdotal evidence I've got, but boys are definitely different. He's been the naughtiest, messiest. He doesn't clean himself. He hardly ever grooms himself the way that all the females I've had. He's noisy, bossy, drinks too fast, eats all his fruit in one go. He's a real sort of obnoxious, typical boy. And amongst the girls that I've raised, you know, some of them have been really timid and shy and a bit worried about everything, and others have just been sort of go-getters. I really, I could tell you through all the different flying fox I've raised what their personality was like, and you get to know what to expect from them, which is good as well, because when something's wrong, you know, because you can pick it when they're not behaving the way that you've come to know that they should. He's also really lazy. Most of the bats I've had, you know, they're always moving around. We put them on a clothes rack on an air dryer in the house so they can hang and move around and practice their flying. And all the bats I've had by this time of year are really mobile, you know, running around, flying, flapping. He takes a lot of encouragement. He's so lazy, he'd much prefer just to sit there and eat fruit all day. I also noticed, you know, like if you walk into the room and you're holding an apple, from the other side of the room, he will start screaming at you at the top of his voice, telling you to get over here now and give him that apple. He has no patience whatsoever. So a lot of people ask me about the way flying foxes hang upside down, and especially kids, they're quite upset about the fact that they might fall, especially when they're sleeping. But the thing about the flying fox's feet is in their relaxed state, they're actually gripping on. So that's an automatic thing. And, you know, you've seen even the little babies, they hang on sometimes just by a couple of toes and they'll be sound asleep, all wrapped up with their other foot hanging down. And they never fall. They are so secure because of that lock reflex in their big spiky toes, which are giving me lots of scratches right now. So that's the other reason why when you see them on the power lines, sometimes they're there for weeks and they'll just slowly sort of decompose up on the power lines. I've been raising flying foxes for quite a few years, and the nature of the job is that they have to come everywhere with you. Especially when you first get them, they're on feeds every few hours. They take a lot of maintenance. You have to toilet them, and they really do need a lot of support. So because of that, everybody in my circle knows that if I'm coming somewhere, if I'm coming around for dinner, if we're going to the movies, if I'm going to work, the flying fox is going to be with me. And that's been a sort of interesting social experiment to see people's reactions and to see what people think when they know a flying fox is turning up at their house or wherever we're going. And it's really, I think, almost more important than supporting the life of this one little tiny flying fox, because the effect that it has on people is quite phenomenal. Just about everyone, when they first hear that I've got a bat with me, says, "Ugh, I hate bats. Oh, get it away from me. I'm scared of bats." You know, talking about vampires and the fact that they stink and the fact that they're noisy, and, you know, everyone thinks they're in plague proportions. But 100% of the time, and I have met no exception, when they come face to face with a flying fox, and I think it's the same for any animal, even animals people hate, they undergo a change almost instantly. They can't look at this animal's face, they can't look at its incredible features, its bizarre behaviour. You know, you can't look at that face and not have a change in your attitude. And the flying foxes that I hand raise, they're ambassadors for all the other flying foxes, and they do such a wonderful job of changing people's minds and making people think a little bit outside the human perspective. You know, we always kind of run around thinking that it's all about us, that our species is the most important, and that anything that gets in our way is a problem. But, you know, just to meet a flying fox or any sort of baby animal that's so vulnerable and has been affected by what we've done, I think it really makes people think about that there's other creatures out there doing amazing things, having a really important role in the environment, and, you know, we have to give some respect to that. But I do see that happen. I see that change in people, and just about everyone becomes a bat convert, and then I send them on their way. It's like evangelism.
You probably don't know and probably don't care. Just because you don't see them don't mean they're not there. The flying fox, the BAT, the greatest threat that they're facing is ignorance of you and me. You probably don't know and probably don't care. Just because you don't see them don't mean they're not there. The flying fox, the BAT, the greatest threat that they're facing is ignorance of you and me. Truth is, I know some people ain't feeling me, but so many making a difference in the bat industry. Scientists, don't forget the conservations, countless volunteers, government organizations. Follow the news and what the bats do. Pollinization is one of these clues.